Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Breaker, no South Jersey checking in. Danny in the shop where the real ones begin. 454s, 2290s, 2879s, all HGs hitting hard. Melon mud duck slide. Danny the man with that Dave Meg flair. Old school vibe, 90 smoke in the air. Forget that weak 6 pill high Q noise. This that Jersey Bill heat for the real convoy. Yeah, do I set up, but don't be a clown. Conex 3300 HP Max will shut you down. Over 29, Galaxy to the dome. BCC 66 on that Ranger top one chrome. Key it down, watch the mud ducks fall. South Jersey amps, yeah, the story gets told. Bleed over burning, watch it strong. 1, 2, 3 style, that skip rolls long. Key it down, watch the mud ducks fall. South Jersey amps, yeah, the story gets told. Bleed over burning, watch it strong. 1, 2, 3 style, that skip rolls long. Cadillac radio, straight pill stacks. 468, crushing airways flat. Superstar 148, bro is okay for straight 16 pills deep. That carrier loud, putting clowns to sleep. Got a 711 tune, razor sharp. Truck CB, sail late, sparks in the dark. Even 350 builds, running so mean. South Jersey star, keep it crispy and clean.
Key it down, watch the mud ducks fold. South Jersey amps, yeah, the story gets told. Bleed over burning, rise hitting strong. 1, 2, 3 style, that skip clean.
What's going on? Merry Christmas to everybody. Day late. What's happening? Facebook and YouTube, people. Well, happy holidays to everyone. I had a guy hit me up and said he was looking for a 12 transistor unit. He wanted a 2879-Cs. I haven't did these in a while. It's just because I was so busy with the South Jersey line, and people wanted to take and try to jump on a budget build for the most part. Prices are down right now. Things are expensive, guys. Oh man, I was researching stuff and whew, what it costs to get some parts in some days. So with that said, let's take a look at this. Now this unit was originally a guy wanted to take, and he had one of those big radios, and he had asked me if it would drive this unit. I said it probably would, but it wouldn't get full power, nowhere near it. And it's hard to understand what some of these guys have because they focus a lot on peak. Their peak radio does this. This radio does this 150 or 200 watts peak, and that's a great thing. And the peak numbers are up when you run those types of radios into these amps. The peak is up, but the RMS is not filling in. So he gave me some numbers over the phone. I'm going to try to simulate them as best as I possibly can to show him on that specific radio. But with that said, he has an army of other radios, and the Cobra 29 Dustin R&R, I believe he said he had one of those or 5 of those or whatever. But at the end of it all, you can use an external driver to drive this stuff, and that's what I highly suggest. 2 transistors up to a 4 transistor. If your radio is not super high powered, meaning Cobra radio into a 4-pill, you could probably drive it into the 12 and not have any problems. This does have 2879-Cs in here. What's going on, Steve George? Merry Christmas to you, man. Everybody, it's up in here. I don't get my glasses on to read the fine print. But, so you go to external drive, and that's what this line was always suggested to do with, is to take and go with an external driver. Or if you got a smaller unit, yeah, that radio probably would have worked out well, probably with the 8 or a 6 or possibly even a 4 transistor unit, depending on how your peak is. So that said, let's take and open this thing up. Now I always talk about velocity factor and coax and such, and at the end I can just cut to the short term of it and just say a half a wavelength or a quarter of a wavelength. So we're just going to do that just to keep everybody from getting confused of what type of coax this and that. You guys got to do your research. So I'm just going to give it to you in regular format. So what we're running here from the radio, the Cobra 29, over to the Texas Star is a half a wavelength. Whatever coax you guys decide to work with and cut the frequency, a half a wavelength. All right, that's the number that you need to know, half a wavelength. Now coming down from that driver down to the 12 here, it's a quarter of a wavelength. Why is that? Now I'm going to run that test later on after we run some other tests, but I'm going to take and change and try to remember to change out the jumper between the 12 and the 2. So just for you can see what the input reflect and how it changes, because coax lengths do matter. So I don't just sit there and talk about things because I just like talking about them. Sure, some of it's exciting, some of it gets old, but I want you guys to understand completely about how a piece of coax can totally affect the performance of the amplifier, and it's a side of the performance that you may or may not monitor on your end. I've monitored my input reflex in my truck. To me, it's important. It's a very important number, because if those input reflects, that's the communication between your main amp and your driver. Now, if you have a standing wave issue, it's not on your antenna. A lot of times it's the jumper length. The jumper changes the dynamics of the entire system, how it works. So if this is wrong here, it don't mean that your antenna system's wrong or your radio's wrong, or possibly even the driver could be wrong. It could be simply just a patch cord between your driver and your main box. So let's get into this a little bit. I'll guys show and tell a little bit on the unit here. I had a 12 transistor unit. I offsetted the transistors here on this heatsink for a specific reason, because I don't upgrade or upbuild after I've already built an amp. So this thing, for its entire duration of its life, should remain a 12 transistor unit, unless somebody makes a very bad decision and talks somebody into tearing this thing apart. Which if you do, you probably should get punched in the throat. But here you go. So eight on this side and then 4 on the other. So this is a 12 transistor unit. It has a 3-port combiner up front and in the back. That determines either it's going to be a 6 or a 12. Now, why has it got the same size input and output port like if this were a 6-pill or a 6 transistor unit? Well, the reason why is it's just the same network, but you would take into a 6 transistor unit is a 2-pill, a 2-pill, and a 2-pill. So that's the same 3 ports. So ironically, the ports are the same. So if you tore all this out of here and put a 6-pill in there and it was built right, the network should actually work, technically. There should be no load whatsoever, because this is different and this is different than this. So as you're trying to take and understand all that, that's just a network. That's all there is to it. So you have perfect 4 pills, and they're going to an input, and it's getting split 3 times in, and then another 3 4-pills for the output, and there you go. There you have your network of a 3-port combiner, and it does this whole dealio. All right, so let's light this up. I'm going to try to mock up what the guy had on this first radio, and then we'll take and bring this up to full power at 14.8 volts, which I know this unit's going to be ran at. This unit's going to be ran at 15.6 and 8, somewhere right in that area. So he has a 250 amp power supply we have to work with. It's variable, so you're free to wheel it up as long as your reflections are right. So we'll say that. So real quick, I'm going to take and just show you what he had. Now he said, hey, this is a 2500. Let's see what we have here. So I am in peak mode. And he said he had about maybe 175 or 200 peak. So we'll try to do that. It's kind of hard, audio. I got this backed way down. So we'll just take and say it's 200. Because here's your RMS on this. This is a 250 watt slug. All right, this is RMS. Audio, 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 audio. So we already know this thing is not going to be driven. That's only like 40 watts at best. Audio, 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 audio. So peak is a really tricky, fickle something. It'll show you the greatest number every time, even with poor modulation. Now I can take and I can control a little bit with my modulation here, and I'll cut it back, but your peak is still going to squeak through. That's just what peaker tweaker is all about. It's always there. I have my mic gain almost shut off. Let's shut it off and just barely crack it open. All right. So this is peak audio 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 50. It's barely hearing my voice. Audio 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I can't control it. I'm almost at 9 o'clock. Audio 1, 2, 3. But it's still not there. You're not going to drive an amplifier like that. So those radios that are super Godzillas of peak, is not always the best idea to drive into a larger unit. Now, those radios may work really well with, let's just simply say a 6 or a 4 or an 8. Now you're into a 12. So good news is he has a backup and he has drivers. So let's move on and go where we can kind of go minimum. Now I've seen strikers do about 50 watts RMS. And let's see, so I put some modulation on this. Okay, here we go. Audio 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's about 50 watts there. And let's see the peaker tweaker. It's showing me about 300, which strikers don't do 300 peak. But let's just kind of see what we have going on here. All right. So everything's on. I got 3 switches over here. We're going to monitor the voltage and the amperage up there, and the amperage down here for this unit. So let's just take and look at this amperage right here for now. Audio 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So about 130 amps there, and this one here is sharing the Texas Star with it. Here's your voltage on the right. Audio 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So we're about 14.8, 14.7 on the digital. And what happened here to the let's look at the drive here real quick. We're at about 50. Audio, 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 audio. So it's showing about 55. Now let's look at our input reflection. We actually have a 25 watt slug down in there for input, 250 for the input drive. Audio 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So that's, each one of those are about a half a watt. So you're about a little over 1 watt, it's saying. And let's see this 2500 analog. Audio, audio, each line is 50 watts. Audio, 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 audio. So I'm barely doing like 750, maybe a touch at 800 time to time. Let's see what the digital says here. What scale are we on? We're on the 5 scale. Audio, 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 audio. So there's our 800. So where's all that big giant peak coming from? Okay, you got a lot of envelope here to fill up. Audio, 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 audio. So we're making an easy 21, 2150 peak. It's a good number, but this box has a lot of room to grow. You're loafing the box at 800 watts, and yes, you could do that. I don't think that radio will quite get it where we just ran at, but it's possible. I'm not 100% sure what some of these guys pick on radios, but I'm just kind of a Cobra Snake guy, you know. So let's turn this up. Go down, double down on our drive real quick. Taking lower carrier, get it into a reasonable number. All right, so here we go. There's a 250 watt slug going to show my drive. We'll go over here. These are the kind of standard slugs I have. 5,000 on the right, 2,500 on the left. That's an analog, RMS and peak. And then here is 5,000. We're just going to look at that one there at RMS and peak here. All right, let's take it and fire this up. Let's see my drive real quick. There we go, driver, 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 driver. All right, so right about 100 watts. We were hanging out right around 1 watt earlier. Audio 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So we're about 1.5 watts now. And let's take a peek at the current and the amperage here. Voltage, audio, 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 audio. 168 all the way up with everything. Audio, 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 audio. So 150. So that means my little 2 pills drawing about 8 amps right now. So not bad at all. All right, so here's your RMS. Audio, 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 about 100 watts in. Audio, 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 a little over 1,000 watts out. See what the 5 kilowatt says over here. Each line's 100. Audio, 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 audio. 1,000, 1,100. RMS right here. Audio, audio, audio. All right, everything's jiving. All right, peaker tweakers. You don't want to see it dance? Get up and dance. Do the boogie woogie. Audio, audio. So 24, 2,500 on the digital. Let's see what the analog says. Audio, 5 kilowatt slug. Audio, 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 audio. So about 22 there. Let's check the other slug. That's 2,500 watt slug. Audio, audio, audio. And that kind of exceeded it. Can't use that one. All right, so here we go. We're stuck with the 5 kilowatt slug. We'll go with that. 2,500 peak. So that was only with 100 watts of RMS drive and approximately 300 watts peak. Now, if I take and go into more drive, I have plenty of room in this unit. Now, how much is too much? Well, can't tell by if you just have a peak meter, because it's just going to show you maximum peak all the time. You just proved that. I put a little drive in there and showed almost maximum output peak. So if you guys are trying to figure out how much drive to put into yourself, maximum drive on peak is not the best way to do the figuring it out. But anyway, let me drop carrier down. 250 watt slug. Audio, audio, audio. So there's about 150 watts right there. And that's on the high side of the Texas Star. So 150 watts, let's see it working now. We saw that going through the bypass circuit. Let's see it actually feeding the amplifier. Audio, 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 audio. So as you see that I lost somewhere right around 10 watts of power. Where'd the 10 watts go? Well, some of it is lost in input reflection. Audio, audio, audio. That's why you want to keep that really low. But the rest of it is getting used up for what? The carrier. And drive. So, audio, 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 audio. That's 1500. The carrier is up a little high. It was about 1000. You set your carrier. How do you set your carrier, guys? You take it and you set it up about half of what your RMS maximum output power is, about half. So he's saying we just did about 1500. Bring it up. So there is 500 watts, top scale. Audio, 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 audio. A lot of growth. It looks really good. Now let's see what happened with our peak over here on the analog. We're a little over a touch over 2000 on this one. Audio, 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 audio. So about the same thing, about 2300. Let's see what the digital says. Audio, 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 audio. Show me 26. Now that's good. I can make more power, but I can't make any more at this voltage. I'm out of drive. Can it take a little bit more drive? Sure it can. But before I take and do any more of this test, I'm going to change this jumper, and we're going to look at my input reflection. Now I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it on the safe side of things. We're just going to go to the low side and look at my input reflection with a 6 foot or a quote unquote quarter wavelength jumper. Alright? Input reflection on the low side of the Texas Star. Audio, 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 audio. So we're at 1.5 watts. Now let's just double check that. We'll take a 5 watt slug, get it down in here. We'll check it again with a 5. There we go. There's a 5 watt slug. Let's see what the 5 says. My 25 said I was at 1.5 watts. 5 watts, you're looking at center scale. Audio, 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 audio. Alright, so the 5 watts says I'm not quite at 1 watt. Alright, cool. Now I'm just going to take and change the jumper real quick. Give me a moment. Figure out where everything's at. We're going to change this quarter wavelength jumper and take it out. And we're going to take and hook up a half a wavelength jumper. And what our focus is on the input reflection, how it changes simply by having a different jumper cable, a longer jumper cable. So okay, so now I have a half a wavelength feeding down from the Texas Star. We're still on the low side, and we're going to take and go over here, right back up to our meter right here, and we're going to start tapping. Audio, 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 audio. Now that didn't go up substantially, but it was enough to notice or see what's going on there. Now keep this in mind. I have a perfect world dummy load here. What do I not have? Standing wave. So your antenna is gonna amplify that somewhere down the chain. So if your jumper's wrong between box A and box B, you always want to take and put tune piece of coax or frequency as close as you can to it in between these units, and you would try this test. So you would try a 12, and then you would try a half wavelength, and then you would try a quarter wavelength. But we've seen a change. It wasn't drastic, but we've seen a change. But it's enough. it could really throw your system off. Now it's a 5-watt slug, audio, 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 audio. What happened here? Now, I'm back here. Let's do this test on the high side, just because I knew where I was. Okay. Now, 5-watt slug, high side drive, 12 foot, half a wavelength. Audio, audio, audio. See, it grew some more. Why? Because I drove it more. But what happened to my peak? Did it change? Audio, 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 audio. Yeah, I lost like 100 watts. No, I lost 50 watts. Watch. Audio, audio, audio. 2500 to 2550. Now let's go back to the correct piece of coax. Quick disconnects on this stuff, guys. Sorry. Fairly fast. Alright. Now, run the same test with the 6 or the quarter wave. Audio, 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 audio is much lower. What happened to my peak? Audio, 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 audio. 100 watts, like I said. 100 watts. So that just automatically shows you that equaled a loss. So why would you want a loss? Why would you want to take and put the proper piece of coax in there? The guy or your friend that says coax length does not matter, that should be the last conversation you have with that guy about anything technical. Because it truly does matter. I just showed you it mattered. Showed you I gained power by having a proper jumper length in line. And I gained and achieved a better input reflection coming back communications from the driver and the 12 transistor unit, or any unit for that matter goes. You always want to take and get the best you can out of your system to make it most efficient at all. The magic is not coax. Coax is not magical. It don't fix things. People read about velocity factor and efficiency. Man, I can't even tell you how many people got hung up on the word efficiency after they learned how to take and read it. They didn't understand the word. They got hung up on, look at this coax. It's 91% efficient. This is 81% efficient. That's what a VOP is. That is an efficiency number. But you can't bank on that. The higher the VOP number is, that means the longer the piece of coax is going to be in a half wavelength or a quarter wavelength. It's going to be longer. Dealing with 213, 217, or 218, that's going to be the shortest coax in all of the families because it's the shortest number on the VOP chart. It's 0.66. It's the lowest number of velocity factor. Do not get hung up on how much efficient a piece of coax is. It's only as efficient as you cut it and install it and put the ends on properly. If you don't do that efficiently, that piece of coax is no more than a piece of wire going from A to B. So let's take and carry on this thing a little bit. Let's move up on our voltage, but we're going to do a base test real quick. Turn this on, turn these on, turn this guy on. Alright, now let's take a look. Let's take a look at where we left off at. Alright, so 12 pills running. Gonna leave the peak right where it's at, leave the radio where it's at, leave the driver right where it's at, and we have our quarter wavelength in between these units again. Let's take a look at our drive real quick, because is my drive level going to open up a little bit more when I bring that little bit of 3/4 of a volt or better in? It should, but let's see what happens here. I'm on the driver, audio, working driver, audio, 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 audio. So we'll call it 140. Input reflect on a 5-watt slug. Audio baseline test, audio, audio, audio. Hang out right around 1 watt. Now let's take a look at the peaker tweaker, 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 tweaker. Tweaker and a tweaker, audio, audio. 2600 solid right there. And we'll just look at the RMS as well to keep it easy for you guys. Audio, 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 audio. So 13, 50, somewhere in there. Here's your amperage. Audio, 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 audio. 196 amps. Now we're drawing some juice, and here's the voltage we're at. And the amperage with the Texas Star. Audio, 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 audio. 14.7, 190 something, I think. Alright, I had a little glare. Now let me change up power sources real quick. Alright, easy peasy. Sure, I got a clicker here. Yep, alright, see the clicking. Alright, so did I increase any with my drive level? Did it come up? See if it came up at all. This is working wattage. And audio. So it gave me like, it allowed 10 watts to come in. What happened to my input reflection? Did it go down or did it go up? We were hanging out right around audio, 1 watt it was. It went down actually. Audio. Alright, so now with that said, here's the voltage we're hanging out at. Audio. Here's the amperage we're hanging out at. Audio. 199. Now let's take a look at RMS. Audio. 1600, and here's your peaker tweaker. Digital. Audio. 2850 to 2900 peak. Yeah, they'll do more peak. They will. They had room. It still has room to grow. So if I had just a little bit more drive. Oh wait, I do. Not much. Can't go up too much. We'll see if it increases any. We'll go to there. All right, let's see if we got any more peak. Audio. Nope. Didn't help it none. You're right there. All right. So there you have it with that. Let me get some. We got Molly. Merry Christmas, Molly. How are you? Come here. Molly. Come here. Linda, come here. Come here, Molly. Are you not feeling good? What? Come here. Come over here. Come here. Hi, how are you? How you doing? What's going on? Did you like it? Yeah? You waving at everybody? You gonna hi, baby. You good girl. You have a good Christmas? You say Merry Christmas, everybody? Come on, you can do it. Say Merry Christmas. Row. Say row. Come on, Molly. You know I'm gonna do it. You gonna wave? You gonna do sign language? Hello, Linda. Hello. You gonna say hi? Say hi. Very good. Say Merry Christmas. No. Why? Say Merry Christmas. Oh. Say Merry Christmas. Say Merry Christmas. Say Merry Christmas, Molly. No? You done? Come on, give me a wave. Yep, good girl. All right. I guess you're all done, huh? You go back doing this? Or are you going to hang out? You don't know? Well, there you have it, guys. I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it and move on forward here. So, we have more drive. I can't make it more drive from where I'm at on this unit. I'm not set up for it. But at the end of the day, the guy don't have any more than what I just put into this. So let's just take a look real quick where the Texas Star left off at for the peak on this, and we'll go here, I guess. It's a little smaller. Audio, Texas Star. Let me look at another slug here. Let me change. Put a 500 in there. Let's see what the 500 does on the peak up here. All right, let's see our peak up here. Hey Keith, how are you? All right, there we go. Peaker tweakers, 250. Audio, I know there's a 500 watt slug. Oh yeah, I guess that thing is doing about 300 peak. So 300 watts peak on the high side of it. And let's see the high side, low side. Audio, peaker, tweaker, peaker, tweaker. So that's 250. If I back it down, you can control the peak a little bit, but eat up all the RMS. Audio. So that's your 150 watts right there, peak. So if I did that, terrible thing. Well, I better turn this slug away. I'm gonna beat it up. Okay. There. All right. There you go. Audio. About 750 watts RMS. Here's your drive. RMS drive. 250 slug. Audio. Right under 50 watts RMS. And so overall it gives me the peak of, this peak right here. Audio. So like 2100 watts peak, and the RMS is just suffering because you don't have no drive right here. Audio. So like 750. So at the end of the day, yes, the 2879Cs do need drive, but even if you had standard 2879s, it's that's not enough to excite the unit. Even with bias, it still wouldn't be enough to excite the unit with that little bit of that radio. So again, guys, you can't put all your eggs in the peaker tweaker basket. It just don't work out that way. You need both. You need the both common. You need the RMS for it's a filler, and it fills up all of that emptiness. You got this peak way up here, you have no RMS, man. You're going to be down here, but your peak will be loud. Sure, you'll have a lot of audio locally. Talking DX, it's not going to work out very well for you. You got to have that body. You need that RMS in there to get filled up and bring it all out and go out and have some fun. As far as running carriers, where should you run your carrier? Like I said earlier, at about half of what you could take and modulate forward to full RMS drive. So if a unit does 2,000 watts, you set a carrier between 800 at the minimum and 1,000 watts at the maximum, and just let it eat. And you can do the math on any unit that you have, as far as if you're just running the final box and you're trying to figure out where to set your carrier at. So some guys are said, hey, I got a 3-watt radio, I got a 4-watt radio. Those 3 and 4-watt radios are done a long time ago. A lot of this stuff is all universal, where you can take and bring your carrier up and down. And if you're on a fixed carrier, it does make it a little bit difficult to take and fine-tune a system. So that's why the radio techs came in and said, hey, we can put a variable potentiometer in here, and it don't control the power of the output of the radio. It shouldn't. It controls the carrier level, where you're going to carry it, have your dead key at. So with that said, guys, hey, thanks for hanging out. It's been fun. Merry Christmas. May or may not have another video before the new year, but if I don't, catch y'all next year. Take care. God bless. I'm rolling to the left. All right, guys, take care. God bless. I'm rolling to the left.